Well, hello there and welcome back to me, Alan, the Whisky Friend. Here we are today with another brand new video. In today's video, I'm going to do my concluding of my GLENFARCLAS series. I've done all the reviews now, I've done them all individually. If you've watched them, guys, great. If you haven't, please check them out, guys. I'll try and put some links around above and at the end if you've not managed to catch up with them. So as GLENFARCLAS, I've done a little review of the 12-year-old, the 105 cask strength, the 15-year-old 46% ABV, the 21-year-old, the 25-year-old, the 17-year-old that was due to the demand in the comments, and I managed to get a hold of the 30-year-old. So I've done quite a few of them. They're all very, very similar in their own ways, and they're all very, very different in their own ways. Today, guys, I'm going to try and give you a kind of overview on them. Hopefully I'm going to try and, I got quite a few questions in the comments, so I'm going to try and answer a few of them today. And I picked up a few things on my own little GLENFARCLAS journey along the way, which I'd like to share with you. So without any further ado, GLENFARCLAS Distillery, it's up there on Speyside. It's a Highland single malt, and it's in a little place called Ballindalloch, which is on Speyside, and it's in the vicinity of Aberlour. It's right in the heart of Speyside, and it's known as the Valley of Green Grass. So nice little name there. It's family owned by the Grant family. It's been in ownership from the Grants for 6 generations, which again I'd like to tip my hat to the Grant family. It's a traditional old distillery. They do everything the old ways. It has 6 stills at GLENFARCLAS. It has 3 wash stills and 3 spirit stills, and they're all gas fired, or direct fired, which is quite unusual for distilleries again in this day. I think it has an impact in the whisky, but I'll come along to that at some point later on. It still has it sold to traditional dunnage warehouses. It's proud to say that there's 68,000 casks at the distillery, or in the warehouses, and they're proud to say that they still have whisky every year since 1953 up to the present date. They do lots and lots of different ranges. They do 10-year-olds, all the ones I've covered. It does a 40-year-old, it does a 50-year-old, it does a lot of family casks, and it has a lot of kind of themed series bottlings. It does lots and lots of whisky. It produces 3.5 million litres annually. So yeah, it's a decent sized distillery. And enough about the distillery, let's crack on about the whiskies. I say initially, guys, I done the 12-year-old. I named that one the Dangerous Dram. Hopefully if you've watched the video I might have explained in more detail, but in a nutshell, for those who haven't, I found it very, very easy to drink this whiskey, and I thought if I had some friends round, then we would never put the cork back on, hence the name, the Dangerous Dram. It was just so easy to drink. Wonderful whisky, as I said, for beginners. Not the most complex in the world. It was a little bit hot on arrival. As it developed and as you sipped it, it became easier to drink, and that's why it got more dangerous, because it was so easy to drink. Then we moved on to the cask strength 105. Just before I move on, guys, as you can see, I actually went out and I purchased the Dangerous Dram. You probably notice as well, different coloured bottles, but I'll come on to that later on as well. That's one of the things we picked up as we went along. Then we did the 15, GLENFARCLAS 15, 46% this time. Again, it was natural colour. Moved into the dark bottle. I purchased this one as well. Again, this was lovely. This was, the extra ABV gave it a little bit more punch, a little bit more. We like the ABV, we like the 46%, we like the natural colour, we like all those sherried, big sherry influences in them all. And then we moved on to, well, actually I have the 12 here with Eric's coin looking after that for me. I've had these poured now probably for about an hour or so now. I've got the 15-year-old, I've got Jason's coin looking after that one at the mash and drum, and I've got Roy's coin looking after the daddy of them all, the big 25 here. So as I say, these have been out for a while now, just kind of opening up. As we go through the video, hopefully I'm going to have a little sip on a few of these as we're going along. 50, we did the 15, we did the 17, the 15, then we moved on to the 21, which I think was, yeah, I had a little sample of the 21. I actually named that one as well as the Perfect Dram. Again, that pretty much had everything for me. It was sweet, it was fruity, it was nutty, it was complex, it was hot, it was punchy, it was sherried, big sherry notes in it. It had really everything in it for me. Hence, I named that one the Perfect Dram. So I don't know if you've tried this, or whether you agree with me or whether you don't agree with me. Since I did that review, it's probably, when I said the Perfect Dram, it was probably put a lot of pressure on this 21-year-old, because I had lots of comments asking me how it compared. As everyone knows who watches my videos, I'm a big GLENFARCLAS fan, so lots of people were asking me how it compared to GLENFARCLAS. Again, I'll touch on that later on, and I'll maybe touch again on this Perfect Dram title that I've given it, maybe a bit eagerly with that, but we'll come back to that one. After the 21, we moved on to the 25. Went out, purchased myself a bottle of that, enjoyed it that much that I purchased a bottle. Got a fantastic deal on it, got it for less than £100, which for a 25-year-old I think it's outrageous, but again, later on I'll come back. Again, this is one of the questions that was answered, so I'll move on to that one later on. Then I got the most requested in the comments. I wasn't planning on doing any more. I was going to end it at that 25-year-old, but I got lots of comments asking for the 17. So I went out and sourced myself a little sample of the 17 and tried that. It didn't disappoint, guys. I can understand why lots of people asked for it. It had everything again. It was nutty, it was fruity, it was sweet, it was spicy, it was sherried. It had all the great nose, great mouthfeel, it was punchy, it was hot, it was back to 43%, but it was one of those, one of the things that came out in most of the GLENFARCLAS reviews I had, with the 43%, none of them really tasted like 43%. They all kind of tasted higher, 46 to 50, and I'm not sure if that's down to the wood or if it was down to the direct fired. I've got my own opinion. I think it's down to the direct fired stills and some great new make spirit and some good wood management. So again, the 17, I was very pleased that I done it. I did enjoy it. I think when I did my video I kind of mentioned that I thought it was the priciest of all, but since then I've kind of searched around a little bit and it's come back into the price point. So I think I stated I wouldn't buy this because of the price, but funnily enough, I've actually managed to get a hold of a bottle because I got one on offer. £71 I paid for it, so it was a big difference for the 105 that I found at the time of review. So again, fantastic with GLENFARCLAS. I hope to touch on the pricing later on in the video. I hope to touch on the coloured bottles. I hope to touch on just really GLENFARCLAS in general. Then I moved on to the 30-year-old, which, when I checked this one out, this was really confusing, because to give you an idea, guys, I actually purchased the 25-year-old for under £100. £99.99 I paid for it. But to get a hold of this one, it cost me $34.99 for this little 3CL sample. I was deciding at the time of when I did some of the previous videos whether I was actually going to go ahead and do this, but I felt I had to, seeing I'd done all the others, it'd be unfair really. So I paid the 35. Boy, was I glad I paid it. Wonderful dram. I think I touched it on the video. I think this was probably my favourite of all of them, and I think it was the money that kind of put the cat amongst the pigeons on this. The bottle went for, I could get the 25, I actually paid $99.99 for it. But if I was to buy a full size bottle of this, it could be anywhere. I've checked again today, and I can get it for £430 today for a bottle of this. Again, I'll touch on it shortly as regards with the pricing. I could get 4 of these 25s for the price of one of these. But just on a quick note, guys, this was my favourite of all of them, but I'm going to touch on it later on. So I think I better have a sip here before I rather than just have these whiskies all sitting here. Just a quick thing, guys, while I've got your all attention. There's 3 glasses here, but what I can see on the camera here, they all look as if they're the same whiskey. Colour wise, I've got the 12 here, I've got the 15, and I've got the 25. They all look exactly the same colour to me. They look like they all came from the same bottle. I can assure you they haven't. They've all come from different bottles. Hence why, moving on to the bottles, guys, I think this is why we have dark bottles now. I think some of the things that came out in my videos, I kept asking how could they do these at this money? How could they do the 15-year-old for less than £50? How could they do the 17 for the 5th, the 105 cask strength for less than £50? How could they do the 18 for £60 to £65? How could they do the 25 for £100? I'm very, very thankful to the doc, Macallan Fine and Rare. He kind of highlighted me a little bit in the comments on regards with Glenfarclas, and I think it highlights here on these bottles, these glasses, that I think at Glenfarclas they use the casks a little bit more than most distilleries. I think they have a great wood management system there at Glenfarclas. They really get the most out of their wood, and I think their new make spirit really works well with the wood. Hence, if you think of this one as 25, I would have expected this to be much darker, but it's not any. I can't see any difference between the 15 and the 25, and to be fair, there's not a much difference between the 12 and the 25. Hence, I think why they've got them in coloured bottles. And I do believe through various guys who have commented that they've had some batch variance, some batch variation between different bottles of Glenfarclas, and I think hence that's why they tend to put them in the darker bottles. But it's, guys, it's wonderful whiskey. Just let me take a quick sip. Slanch. Wonderful. It's hot, it's aggressive, it's young, it's floral, it's sweet, it's fruity, it's nutty, it's got all the bits. But it's wonderful stuff. We've covered the brown bottles now, I think. We've covered how they can produce this whiskey at these prices. I think it's they keep using the wood, they keep using the barrels. I think they have a low marketing budget. There's no fancy packaging. If you just look at the package, it's just a normal tin, no massive advertising, super, and I think all the money that's generated is going back in. I think what's great about them is the traditional distillery. Everything's done the old-fashioned way. It's all kept under control by the Grant family. Wonderful whiskies so far. Just touching on a little bit with my favourites. I've enjoyed them all. I'm glad I've done them all. They all have little bits. Some are more complex than others. I think the 12 is not really that complex, but it's fantastic for a beginner. It's fantastic to get somebody into sherry. If you're a sherry lover, you'll love all of these, and they all have their own different different things that's in their favour. So I think the 15's done at 46% ABV. They're all natural colour, which is great. They're all done in traditional dunnage warehouses, which is fantastic. But in their own rights, they're all fantastic whiskies. One of the other things that came out as regards to in the comments was GLENFARCLAS came up a lot, and I think everyone knows. I think I also did a little mini series on the GLENFARCLAS core range. So I did the 12, the 15, the 18. I'm out of the 21 at the minute. Just waiting to replace that at some point soon. So a lot of comments were asking how it compared to GLENFARCLAS. My honest opinion, I love GLENFARCLAS. I do just think that GLENFARCLAS for me have the edge. I think the 12s against each other, I would, if I was put them head to head, the 12 against the 12 GLENFARCLAS, I think I would punch for the GLENFARCLAS. Both fantastic whiskies. I know this is dangerous. If you put your mind to it, then GLENFARCLAS 12 could probably just be as equally dangerous. Then it moved on to the 15. I think it was a no-brainer for me because the 15 GLENFARCLAS, the old 15 revival, was the whiskey that got me into changing from a collector to a drinker. So I've got a soft spot in my heart for the 15. I have both. I have the new 15 and I have the old 15. I couldn't miss out on any of those. Then we moved on to the 18. I think the 18 Allardyce against the 18 GLENFARCLAS. I think the Allardyce wins it. In fact, that's probably my go-to whiskey at the moment is the GLENFARCLAS the GLENFARCLAS 18. And then I moved on to the 21. So I've now got the perfect dram against the GLENFARCLAS 21 Parliament. Again, 21 perfect. Parliament, I think, probably just nicks it again. Don't get me wrong, for the money of the GLENFARCLAS 21, it's fantastic money. I think this is the beauty that GLENFARCLAS have got against the others, is sometimes I think the value for money is fantastic. Quality of whiskey is great. I just think the GLENFARCLAS over GLENFARCLAS, I think GLENFARCLAS just offers a little bit more punch, a little bit more complexity. For me, I think I would again edge for the 21 Parliament. And then the 25-year-old, it's been a long time since I've tried a GLENFARCLAS 25, but this 25 for the money is a no-brainer. The GLENFARCLAS 25 is absolutely phenomenal money. I think the offer's gone off now, so I think you're back to, I think it's around about £115 now. But even that for a 25, it's just phenomenal money. Yeah, granted, it's probably third, fourth or fifth fill sherry casks, where I think some of the others, like say the Glengoyne 25, which I think I've got here somewhere. Yeah, Glengoyne 25. So if you compare this 25 to that 25, then you can see why there's a big difference in the money. Again, it seems to be down to the casks. This is first fill 25-year-old, super stuff. So if you just compare to even just some of the Glengoynes, colour, there's no comparison, guys. Look, they're just so that's why I think the price is the way they are. I think they realise that they're not first fill, they're more kind of second, third, fourth, maybe even a fifth fill, which I'm not complaining, because I found them all to be fantastic whiskies for the money, and I'm happy to pay that kind of money. It's nice to get a 25-year-old for under £100. I should have bought two, I think. So then we moved on again to the 17. That was wonderful stuff. It was the most requested GLENFARCLAS that I had, and I can understand now after trying it. As I say, I've just ordered a bottle of that, which is wonderful stuff. And then the 30, I think that was my favourite, guys. But again, I've not got any left to kind of highlight. But again, it was a similar colour. The colours are all identical in all of them, and I think that's coming down to the casking. So that again, that's where the price is coming in. But I think the complexity in this 30-year-old was awesome. The only thing that was lacking with it was the darker colour. It was complex, it was hot, it was powerful, it was punchy, it was full flavoured, it was nutty. I would quite happily buy a bottle of this, but probably not for 400 to 500, well, 3 to 4 to 500 pounds. That was just a stretch too far. I think I'd rather go out again and get a Glengoyne 25 over the 30. So, as I say, my favourite was the 30. I've enjoyed I would buy multiple bottles of the 25 just to drink these, because a lot of the 25s tend to sit on my shelves more than I tend to crack them open, because I think I'm too scared to open them. But they're wonderful, wonderful stuff. Just while I'm there, guys, I think I'll have a wee sip of this 46% ABV. Again, now that I've taken the toppers off the 12, the studio is really, really fruity, really sweet, really sherried. Wow, wonderful. This one you can, on the nose, you definitely get the 46% ABV. That seems stronger on the palate than it does on the nose. You don't tend to get much alcohol on the nose, but on the 46 you definitely do. Again, they're all very floral, very sweet, very fruity. Have a sip. Wow, wonderful. One of the other characteristics of these Glenfarclases is they were all very, they set you up beautifully for the next sip. So you'd have that first initial powerful hit, and then after that, once you tried it again and again and again, it was easy just to keep going back to these glasses. As I say, I've went out and spent my money on these guys because I did enjoy these. I thought these were super value. Anybody that's thinking of going out and trying, maybe even buying some Glenfarclas, just be aware that it is probably second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth fill sherry casks, but for the money I don't think you'll be disappointed. The 25, it gave me everything I was expecting. I probably would have liked it to be in first fill, but I know it would have hit me more in the pocket. I'm still not too sure why the 30-year-old jumps, whether it's just keeping it in line with other 30-year-olds, I'm not too sure. Maybe the doc can fill me in on that one. Again, it didn't seem like it was a first fill or even a second fill. It was still, the colour was the same as these other ones, but it was complex, it was fruity, it was nutty, it was spicy, it had everything. The one thing about the 21, guys, the 21 probably changed more than the others. Every time I went back to the 21, you were getting different notes. You even got a little bit, I'm sure I got a little bit of tropical in the 21. I don't think that was as spicy as some of the others either. A lot of them had spice, a lot of wood spice, but again, they were fantastic whiskies. And the 25, again, another super one. Thanks, Roy, for looking after this. Wow. Again, the noses are all wonderful, wonderful noses. So you could spend hours and hours just nosing these. But I'm going to have a little sip of the 25. Let's try this one. I think another thing that I mentioned in the videos, they all seemed hotter than 43. That definitely seems hotter. And I'm still not sure whether it's the wood, whether it's spicy wood, spices coming from that which is making it hotter, or whether it's the new make spirit at Glenfarclas through the direct fired stills. There's something different with this. The Glendronachs are all tend to be at 43, and most of the others are kind of 46 and 48s. So they seem a little bit higher ABVs anyway. But these ones at 43 definitely don't feel like 43% ABV. The 43 ABVs on the 12-year-old, and if I compared both 12s, this seemed a little bit hotter. whether that's the new spirit or whether it's the youngness, the young aggressive spirit. But the 25-year-old 43% again feels hotter than the 43% Glendronach. So again guys, they're just wonderful, wonderful whiskies. Hopefully I've covered enough. I've covered my favourite. I've covered the ones that I would buy. Hopefully I've answered some of the questions that came up in the comments. I've covered the darker bottles against the lighter bottles. I think it's just to cover up the lack of colour in them. I think people would maybe look at the 25-year-old and expect it to be darker. I think they would maybe look at a 21-year-old and maybe expect it to be darker. If you can see obviously when you compare the Glendronachs and the Glengoynes, then I think colour wise they are much more attractive in colour. But again, don't let it detract from these guys. I think they're super whiskies. The other great thing about GLENFARCLAS is I don't think they're pretentious. I think they're putting out exactly what they want to put out. I don't think they're looking to become collectors items. I don't think they're wanting collectors chasing them. I think they're really aiming their spirit at the whiskey drinker, and hence I think that's why the prices are fantastic, and long may it continue from GLENFARCLAS. I love what they're doing. I love the whiskey. They're not disappointed me because they're not darker. The whiskies have all been fantastic. I'm not disappointed about any of these. Anybody that would like me to share some of these with them, if they've not tried GLENFARCLAS, and drop me a comment, and I'm quite happy to share some of these with you, just to see that if you get the same kind of feeling on it that I do. But again, all in all guys, hopefully I've kind of concluded the GLENFARCLAS season or series. Not too sure what I'm going to do next. I think possibly a bourbon next. That might be the plan, or maybe a bourbon comparison. I've had lots of samples sent from across the pond. So I've had a few from Jason at the Mash and Drum. He sent me some blind samples, so I may tackle some of these. I've had some Canadian whiskey sent to me from Rob Klumpstra in Canada, so I'm looking maybe have a little Canadian session. Lots and lots of stuff going forward with the channel. I'm going to try and get into some live streams guys. I'm probably going to plan and do 2 a month, possibly an American one in American time zones. That might concentrate maybe a little bit more on bourbon, and maybe the UK time zones or European time zones, that may be a wee bit more Scotch. I tend to find though I've done a lot of Scotch videos now, and I've done quite a few bourbon videos, and it seems to be there's guys that like the bourbon and there seems to be guys who like the Scotch. So hopefully maybe the little videos or the live streams may kind of try and bridge those gaps, and hopefully get some Scotch drinkers to maybe sample some bourbon, and maybe some bourbon guys to try some Scotch. But that's for another day guys. That's me. I'm Alan. I'm the Whisky Friend guys. Thanks for watching. If you've liked it, please give me the thumbs up. If you have any questions that you don't think I've answered, just drop them in the comments. If you've subscribed, thanks very much. If you're not, you may want to consider hitting that button down below. As usual, doesn't cost you anything, it's free, and you're helping the channel massively on its way to the magical 1K. So as always guys, as I try to say, remember, the pleasure is in the sharing. Until next time guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye bye.